Hey, Bethany Lutheran Ushers. I wanted to put together a quick video of some suggestions that Pastor Schumacher and I have in addition to your Usher manual. So for those of you who are going through the Usher training for the first time, most of your duties are going to be passed down from guys who have been serving as ushers before. So really this is one of those things where most of the Usher stuff you learn on the job. But the big thing I want to emphasize in this video in the next couple minutes here is these, you see, pastor's annoying adjustments. So these are the big changes that we've made from previous practice on the Board of Ushers, or the Ushers team here, to try to accomplish three main goals. First, I want to try to keep our families together. So I don't like, one of the first things we're doing is we're eliminating the scheduling of ushers on Saturday night, and that's so that we don't have to keep separating our ushers and our acolytes and sacristans when their families are scheduled at different services. So if you do happen to come to a Saturday night service, just jump in and volunteer as the need arises. But as you know, there's not that many people come to Saturday night service. So keeping families together is one of our main goals. Two, keeping worship as a priority for you personally. So even though when you come to worship and you're serving in the role of an usher, really it's only me and Pastor Schumacher who have kind of said, I'm going into a profession where I don't get to worship on Sunday, I'm working. I don't want your serving as a board of as an usher to really get in the way of your personal worship. So during the sermon, I want you listening to the sermon. During the hymns, I want you to be able to sing the hymns mostly. I realize there's a lot of times when these things overlap and you have to do your duties, but really trying to help you keep your focus on being in worship and worshiping when you're in worship. And third, and maybe most importantly for all of our adjustments here, is we're trying to get more content, to keep as much content in the service as possible without keeping the service to an hour and a half. So we're trying to keep our service to just 1 hour in length approximately, but also trying to keep as many hymns in there and as many aspects of the liturgy as we possibly can. And so the only place where we can really cut things is where we can kind of trim the service with lag time on some stuff that the ushers are doing. So that's really the one place we identified. You guys are doing exactly what you've been trained to do, and now as we're kind of adjusting things, we're seeing, oh, hey, we can tighten things up in these couple spots. So just briefly here, you'll be getting an usher manual, and it's only 4 pages long. We've shortened it down to really condensed it so you can see your own duties. It'll be in the usher closet over here. And so there'll be a stack of them in there. If you don't make the usher training, we'll be emailing you this video and the usher manual alike. So real quick, just the adjustments I'm going to focus on. All the other duties, again, older or ushers who have been doing this for a while can teach you the ropes as you go through the general day-to-day stuff of the usher. But the big changes, first with the bulletins, as you know, we've gone to the new bulletin layout. And so in our attempt to try to not have to print as many, the 5:30 service, we don't have an usher team scheduled for that, so the basket will be sitting here after the service. We're expecting people to just toss their bulletins in, and you might, if you're scheduled for 8:30, be sure to get here 20 to 30 minutes early. There might be a little stack of bulletins. It's not going to be overwhelming. There's only like 40 people who come to church on Saturday night. Just to straighten up the bulletins here. If you don't have to stuff the herald into the bulletin if you don't want to. So everybody's got a different personal opinion on that. If you want to just hand out the bulletin and the herald separately, stuffing it might be easier for you, that's fine. Whatever you want to do, you don't have to do it one way or the other. Just make sure you're handing out the bulletins. And then after the service, this crate thingy, which is the official bulletin crate thingy, after the bulletins are brought in on here, you can stick it underneath here, and then just remember after the service to pull it up so that people can toss their bulletin in. After the 8:30 service, you can straighten those out. Also, if you're scheduled for the 11 o'clock, get here early and straighten those things. The other main thing at the start of the service is these doors. These doors here. When the procession is happening, we're finishing up the sharing of the peace and all this. I know in the past we used to have you shut the doors because of when we had confession and absolution, but now since confession and absolution is happening up there and the timing is a little bit different, if people are coming in, that's fine. It doesn't bother us, and it kind of just adds to the excitement of the service starting. So once the procession takes off, that is, once the crucifer starts walking, If everybody's through, go ahead and shut the doors. But if people are still lingering in, don't give them like the cold shoulder and shove them out. Just make sure everybody's in, and then shut the doors at a reasonable time. After the service, while we're on doors, at the end of the 11 o'clock service, when you go to lock the door, if you're on the 11 o'clock team, this main door up here in the front, let that be the last thing that you do, because we have a lot of people coming for various activities around noonish around here. So lock all your other stuff, turn out your lights, all your other duties, and then the last thing you do is lock door number 1. The next one, I have 3 more things, so stay with me here. Counting. It is essential. One of the biggest things you guys help us out is by giving us an accurate count for communion, what you expect the communion count to be. So, however, when you're counting, it makes sense to do that during the sermon, because everybody's sitting down, you can see easier. The problem is people are trying to listen, and you're having to walk around, and you got the clicker, which does click, and we get a lot of feedback on the clicker making a lot of noise. So, and then frankly, I see people's eyes, and people are kind of looking around at various times. So, if you would, do the counting during the sermon hymn, if at all possible. And usually they're sitting for that too, so try to get your counting done during the sermon hymn, clicking or however you want to personally do it. But then here's the big shift. Don't go put anything in the sacristy. So once you get the count done, clickety click click during the sermon hymn, sermon starts, sit down. Or if you have a wife or whatever, go sit with your family. Make it a big deal. Walk out in the front, sit with your wife, whatever you want to do. And then after the sermon, jump back into your duties. But don't feel like you have to be separated from your family when you're serving as an usher. But that count, you're going to write down the full attendance count in the usher closet in the appropriate place. But the communion count, just hold on to that number in your head. Pass it to whoever the other ushers are. Whoever the ushers are who go up to get the offering, that is when you tell us the number. So you at no point during the service, from the beginning to the end, need to go into the sacristy ever. So don't write that number down anymore. So, because it's distracting with the door and all that stuff too. So when you come up to get the offering plates, we'll hand you the plates, and we do our bowing thing, and you say, Pastor, there's 2 people in the pew, and we got 150 or whatever, and then we'll make the adjustments at that point. So don't put the count back in the sacristy, but tell us those needs. When you do the offering, come get the plates right away. So at the point of the service, it's usually after the prayers of the church, when I or Pastor Schumacher say we're seated for the offering, or Pastor Schumacher just puts his hands down. Get up there as soon as you can to get the plates and get the offering rolling. And then as soon as the offering is all collected, bring it on up. So don't wait for choir pieces to end, don't wait for songs to end, whatever. You finish the offering, you got the plates, take it up. That way we can start rolling with the next thing. And sometimes Cantor and the pastors will like cut the offertory if we're running behind from a time perspective. Last touch with the offering, if you can, at all possible, use all 6 plates, which necessitates the 3 ushers coming down the middle, so that we can do the offering on that far side at the same time as doing these other 2 sections. If there's only like 3 people over there, don't worry about it, but primarily at the 8:30 and 11 o'clock service, there's at least 30 people sitting over there, and if you can, try to get somebody doing that offering so that it doesn't add another 5 minutes to the offering. Sometimes, especially when we're crowded, we're not having all 6 plates going, so make sure we've got 6 plates with that far side being going for the offering during the regular offering as often as possible. Last thing, one more here. I guess 2 more. With the offering, we're going to put the offering plates in the back. Part of your training so far has been immediately go back through the door, get the offering, drop it in the safe, and what you hear is a lot of slamming, especially up in the front. So just don't put the offering in the safe until after the service. So after the closing hymn, during the announcements and all that, then go move the money. But please don't do that during the service. Last one, communion. Big time saver here. You guys have been doing awesome on both the adjustments you guys have been making with communion, but just to emphasize this one more time, go ahead and if you want to come up here real quick. When you're sending up for communion, when the sacristans are communing, do I run weird? When the sacristans are communing here, Once the Agnus Dei is done, the Lamb of God, you take away the sin of the world, when the congregation is done singing that, they're usually still communing over here. Go ahead and start sending these folks here, right? So have them coming. Most of the people know the Agnus Dei by heart, so send them on up, and they'll start lining up on this side so that once we've communed the sacristans, we can start communing this side. So send them up right away, and then having a line form with people getting out of their pew, walking around, and standing here. We want that. We want there to be a line, so you're waiting, and if you need to have it back up for a while, so that as soon as the table is done, the gatekeeper is letting people come up and they're filling this thing up as quick as possible. When we get to the far side, add plenty of extra time. Like send them a lot earlier than you think you need to, because they got to walk all the way around, and a lot of times we're waiting or we don't fill a full table, and those little seconds add up to minutes, and we're trying to shave those minutes down. So send them early, let the lines back up. People can come to communion with their hymnals and sing in the line if they really want to sing, and that's totally fine. Last one, if you're the gatekeeper, the usher here standing in the front and letting people go to the sides, be especially mindful that if you've got like nobody on one side and a lot of people on the other, just because they're lined up on this side doesn't mean you can't send them to that side. So if you have people lining up on one side, go ahead and be proactive and send them to the other side, so that we're not really waiting. We're communing everybody, and we can kind of get as much of the content in the service as possible. Those are the main adjustments. Pastor Schumacher, in our usher training, will go over some more of the details. And again, ask the guys who have been doing it for the details. Thank you guys so much for your service and all your help, and really helping us get the service to as efficient as possible. Really, without the ushers, we really couldn't have a church of this size and do as many things as we're able to do. So thanks for your service.